In order to finish off this section on negative perfectionism, we're going to just take a moment to discuss the different consequences of negative perfectionism. They're not a fantastic list of consequences, but I think they're really important for us to take a look at and to see how they're going to really negatively impact a person's ability to focus on their dancing. So the first consequence that people face is that they're very time consuming. Negative perfectionism takes a lot of time. If you think through how large this section has been, all the different ways that negative perfectionists can ruminate, all the different behaviours that they will undertake instead of their dancing, and all the different feelings that they feel, this is going to take up a lot of their energy and a lot of their time. And so their focus on their dancing is going to be so much less than it potentially could be. So this certainly is a really big factor with negative perfectionism, is just how much time it takes up. The next part is that it's all-consuming, related very much to this first thing that I've just said, because it not only takes up a lot of time, but it consumes the person. They've got no room for anything else. So they won't be undertaking activities that complement and are essentially important to dance. So the rest and recovery side of dancing will get brushed under the rug. I see a lot of perfectionists who will come in and do extra training and extra things, when actually what they really need to do to get better is to have a day where they cross-train, they relax, they buy good food, and where they have a bit of time to think about their dancing and to imagine positive imagery rather than to constantly be concerned about their dancing. The next way in which negative perfectionism can impact dance is through what we call adverse physical symptoms. So someone who's negatively perfectionistic will have more sore muscles, more headaches, more aches and pains, more emotional distress than dancers who aren't negatively perfectionistic. And we all, I'm sure, relate to knowing dancers who just can't seem to feel okay. Everything hurts them all the time. They're not quite able to finish a class. This is what we mean by these non-specific adverse physical symptoms. Negative perfectionism is also going to confuse standards. So as it is, and as we've seen in the earlier section, because perfection is subjective, it's really hard as it is for dancers to know what they could or should be aiming for in different contexts. And so now to confuse that even further makes a negative perfectionist feel like they're really on unstable ground. So because they'll procrastinate, or because they'll avoid, because they will engage in other things than the actual doing and the practice of the dancing, they can get really confused about how much they should be doing and what that should look like and whether they're doing enough, and it can be really confusing. The next way that it impacts our dancing is that it leads to social isolation. So for all the reasons that we've just spoken about already, perfectionists can feel isolated. And then on top of that, because they really seek assurance a lot, a reassurance, am I doing okay? How was that? Can I talk to you after class? They need a lot of attention and time. Or because they can correct other people and bring their perfectionism in for others, they sometimes can also be hard to like, and this creates the social isolation. It also, when people are being negatively perfectionistic, creates what we call debilitative imagery. And this is where someone will experience greater levels of anxiety and lower levels of self-confidence. So certainly in the dance environment, as we've talked about with the small bit I mentioned on fear and performance anxiety, this is going to have a really big impact for how much they enjoy performing. And also with less confidence added in there, you've got the double whammy happening at once. They're also going to get less accurate feedback from their bodies as well. And a dancer's proprioceptive ability is key to their understanding of what they're doing. And when this is dampened with negative perfectionism, it can really get in the way of a dancer feeling how they're supposed to be doing things. And finally, negative perfectionism can have more insidious outcomes, such as disordered eating and eating disorders.